The reptilian society is very structured, and there is a hierarchy where we have the elite group, which is the white-winged reptilians. They're very tall, actually have icy blue eyes, and very sleek but powerful bodies. And then it works down all the way, 7 levels in at least the Draco Empire, to a workforce or drone-like reptilians, which are quite small, perhaps 3 to 4 feet high, very brown, scaly skin, not very intelligent, basically do what they are told. In between, you have a military class, you have a spiritual or religious leaders that are very much like we would have bishops and cardinals and popes. They also have an intellectual caste, and then a general mass of people. For all intents and purposes, if you really wanted to know what the Draco Empire hierarchy was like, just look at the Hindu caste system, which was based on that. If you read about Hindu legend and even anything in East Asia, it talks about the Naga, which were the 7-headed reptilians, which came ashore in Asia after their continent sank in the Pacific, and is spoken about in all of the Asian, Southern Asian, and East Asian legends and histories. The 7-headed reptilian, or Naga, really represents the 7 levels of the caste system in the Draco Empire hierarchy. The first time I ever had contact with reptilian beings was when I was working as a teenager, believe it or not, in the Montauk Project between 1970 and 1983. They were what I would consider to be of the military or warrior class, very large, powerful, mean-looking, scary-looking. When you're 13, 14 years old and you see an 8 or 9 foot tall creature with fangs and green and yellow eyes coming at you, it's very scary. They were kind of there as observers, along with observers from the U.S. government, the Israelis, the Russians, Germans, and even British. They were there to watch and exchange information on the programming techniques and the technology that the U.S. government had developed from other alien technologies, as well as what they had discovered from Atlantean technologies, which were discovered underneath the Montauk Point. My concerns about the future as far as reptilians are concerned is that the information that will be presented to the public about them will not be accurate. I know that the U.S. government and basically the world government is preparing to unleash a staged alien invasion on the planet, meaning they will use the Blue Beam Project, which is holographic technology which can be picked up on radar and actually heard and felt by those on the surface, of alien beings, or at least vehicles attacking this planet. And they can even have satellites shoot laser beams or other types of weapons onto the surface to make it look like the Earth is actually being attacked. And people, of course, won't know whether it's true or not, but most people, I feel, will think it's true. Then they will have reptilian beings come and become the savior race, chase away this invading force, which as we have seen in the last couple of years, there's been meteorites, comets, other space debris, even ELF transmissions that have been bombarding the Earth and passing by the Earth. And scientists say they didn't see it coming, they didn't know where it came from. It'll then be revealed that the attacking race was hurling these objects at the planet as a weapon. And so the reptilians will chase them away. They will be hailed as saviors. Then they will have information saying that human beings on the Earth having reptilian DNA are actually descendants of this savior race. So we are related. They're like the mommy and daddy race of human beings.
Reptilian stands between 7 and 8 feet tall and, as expected, has the look of a reptile. They too are erect standing bipeds. The head is slightly conical in shape and has 2 bony ridges riding from the brow across a back-sloping skull. There appears to be no bridge between the eyes. The nasal openings are at the end of a small flattened nose and are described as 2 small slits that slant upwards in a V formation. Small openings can be seen on the side of their heads, but no ears as such. The eyes contain vertically slit pupils with a flame or an orange-coloured surround. They have wide lipless mouths which contain various types of teeth, including fangs. Some have thin fleshy spines under their chin. Their skin is scaled, usually greenish-brown or light grey in colour, and hairless. The scales on their backs, thighs and upper arms are quite large, with hands, abdomen and face being covered with smaller scales, allowing more flexibility. Reptilians' bodies are lean and firm with powerful arms and legs, long arms and 3 fairly long fingers and an opposable thumb. The feet have 3 toes and 1 recessed 4th toe that is toward the back side of the ankle. Claws on the hands and feet are short and blunt. They do not have teeth on their upper torso and there is no navel. How do they behave? The ruling caste of indigenous reptilian consider themselves to be the genuine natives of the earth and humans to be squatters. A group of reptilians is known as a hive, and the race is absolutely void of any care, concern or compassion for human beings. The worker caste can be friendly as long as they are allowed to speak first. They will answer if you address them. Where do they come from? Earth. Yes, Earth. And would you invite one to meet your mother? You could possibly invite a worker caste home for tea, only if you had established some trust first with it. This would involve being totally subservient and only speaking when spoken to. You would need to warn your mother of the guest's appearance in advance. That is, a 7-foot-tall lizard, and then ensure that she understood not to speak first.
Where do the rituals take place that you've been involved in, involving the British royal family?
Glamis Castle, Stonehenge, Balmoral Castle. I have reason to believe there's a church, and I think it may be Westminster Abbey, and there is a Mothers of Darkness castle or chateau in Brussels, Belgium. They've been there too. And also in France, the Marquis de Libero Pindar has a castle in the Alsace-Lorraine region of France. And I believe it's in the Alsace region. That he uses, and there are certain rituals done at that castle down in the dungeon part of that castle, and there's an entrance down there to underground places in the earth, and there is a natural formation of rocks that kind of glow green, and they keep menstrual blood in that formation, and this green glowing from these rocks actually turns the blood a darker color, and it's called black blood, and it's used in certain rituals. But there are also, they keep small, there are smaller less developed little reptilians that are kept down there. They're kind of pets. But one other thing that's also down there, there are eggs. It's like a nest of eggs kept down in that part where it's warm. It's very warm down there into this entrance, and these eggs are kept down there incubating, and they are the reptiles' eggs, and that's where they keep them.
What are your memories of conducting the rituals for the royal family? What happened? What were they doing?
One thing that sticks out in my mind is that there was before. This was back in the late 70s. This was before Charles was married to Diana. He was involved with Kamala Parker Bowles, and she does not shapeshift, but she became pregnant by Charles, and she produced a baby, and this baby was presented at the ritual and killed, and that is the price, the firstborn between these two, and eventually these two will marry, and that is the price that is to be paid, the sacrifice of the firstborn between a union of these two people. And I've seen that there. Something else that sticks out in my mind is that it was around the late 80s that I saw a very kind of dark man he was Arabic. It seemed to be Arabic or Egyptian, and I heard the name Fayed being mentioned, and the Queen Mother was there, and I called her the Black Queen, and she and he were talking very seriously and at some length about a subject. They were mentioning Diana, and they were mentioning his son, Dodi. And at the time, I didn't know who Dodi was. I knew who Diana was. I never saw her at any rituals.
Where did this conversation take place?
This took place at Balmoral Castle. And I heard them talking about a marriage between these two, and I thought at the time, well, she's married to Charles. How can there be a marriage where she's married to Charles? I didn't understand why the Queen Mother and this person that I now know to be Dodi Fayed, because I heard Fayed, Muhammad al-Fayed, talking, and I'd seen them together at, I saw them at Balmoral Castle. I overheard the conversation at Balmoral, but I'd seen them also at Mothers of Darkness Chateau in Brussels, and they were talking about a union between Diana and his son Dodi back in the late 80s, and I did not understand at that time, because I understood Diana to be married to Charles. I knew that she was married to Charles, and they had 2 children, and they were about to have another. And the Queen Mother, all I could pick up was that for some reason that there was a malevolence towards Diana. And Diana I had never seen at a ritual. I wondered what she knew about all of this.
What have you seen the royal family do, the Queen Mother, and the other people you've seen in the rituals? What have you seen them do?
I've seen all of them drink human blood and consume human flesh, and they have their own goblets in which they have blood, and these goblets are encrusted with jewels, and they also have their own daggers, and that the dagger goes into the goblet, and they stir the blood around with it, and it's also a what it is. It's a symbol of the phallus going into the vagina when they're doing this, and I've seen them do this, and some of them have even, like the Queen Mother I saw with, she had her own little, it would, like almost, it's between a very elaborate ornate chair or a throne kind of thing brought in for her to sit. And because before these rituals actually start, there is a kind of people move around the room and talk, or recognize one another. It's a formal kind of a ritualistic setup, the way they talk and the way they introduce each other. It's like a court.
What are they wearing?
They're wearing robes. They're not wearing anything underneath the robes, and the robes are very ornate. They all have, the one thing in common they have is they have a red color like blood, and some of them have purple, and they have gold kinds of lines running through them. They have the Merovingian symbol of France, the fleur-de-lis, and there are jewels that are sewn in at certain points on these robes, and they wear these robes, but they don't wear anything underneath the robes, because what is going to happen, what the rituals are all about, they're going to shape-shift, and they can't have anything on under the robes. And there are orgy kind of things that go on at the rituals also. And
involving the royal family of Britain?
Yes, involving the royal family of Britain, and the sacrifice and the eating of, consuming the sacrifice, and they are involved in that.
You've seen them do that?
Yes, I have seen them do that.
People in Britain, listening to what you're saying, would obviously be staggered, I guess anywhere in the world, but what would stagger them mostly is, in Britain, the Queen Mother has an image of being the nation's grandmother. The nice old lady, and good old Queen Mum, what a lovely lady. What's your experience of the Queen Mother?
She is very cold in reality, and she is very cruel, and she is very different than she comes across to the public. She's cold-blooded. If she feels that you are someone beneath her, even in the Illuminati, that you're at her equal, or station is above her. She will not speak to you. She will not recognize you. She obviously, from what I see, enjoys consuming human flesh. It's sickening. The one person that she seems to be afraid of is Pindar.
People would also look at the Queen Mother's elderly, frail stature and find it very difficult to see her taking part in rituals and doing anything, if you like, active. Do they go into a different state in terms of age and strength and all these other attributes when they actually shapeshift?
Yes, the human body that they choose to occupy or take when it was young, it ages, but when they take the reptilian form, these reptilians live hundreds of years, and so they have to have taken more than one human body to live in. A lot of them are much, much older, and I'm including the Queen Mother in this, older than people think that she is. She's been in more than one body, human form. And when the time comes, if it is time for her to go on, and it has been chosen that she still has, it's known that she still has life or years to go, again, she will be put into the body. The essence of her in the reptilian form will go, or the essence of her will go into another body that is also has the ability to shapeshift into reptilian form.
One of the pure reptilian human bloodlines.
Yes.
What happens when, take the Queen Mother as an example, what happens when they shapeshift? I mean, what do you see?
You start to see changes happen, and they're happening so fast that it's almost it's the closest thing that I've seen to it is what they're now doing with computer technology. It's just a literal transformation that happens very quickly, and they get taller and they get bigger, and they don't look at all as reptilians like they do as humans. And thus the wearing of the robes, because if they were in clothes, the clothes would be torn apart.
So let's take the Queen Mother on this subject as an example. We recognize her as a frail old lady. What does she look like when she shapeshifts at these rituals?
She looks like the nose portion gets very much longer, and it grows into kind of a snout kind of thing. She has fangs and incisors as teeth, and there's a tongue. They all seem to have this kind of tongue when they're at this level. The tongue has a lot of long, hairy or pointed projections coming out of it. It's very long. And they have these, they don't have hands or feet, they have these claws. And they have scales, and also scales that seem to kind of disappear into one another, but it's more pronounced on the back. There seem to be lumps or protrusions coming from the head. There seem to be some kind of growth appendages at where, on the back, and they seem folded, and not all of them have that. And there is a tail, and they a lot of times will keep the tail curled. And and I've seen her when she's very displeased with something, as I've seen other members like this. This tail is whipped around, very agitated, and they do, and she hisses.
What color are they?
Which one in particular?
Take the Queen Mother as an example.
She's kind of a beige color on the underside, and by the time you're going up around to the back and the tail and the top of the head and on top of the nose, snout, whatever, it's coming to a very they're dark speckles or large speckles of dark browns, and the eyes usually they're large. They look like they're very round, and they look like they're coming out of their sockets, and very protruding. And usually the color ranges from a beige to a gold to a dark greenish gold, and then there's this dark slit up and down, a vertical slit, and and the eyes will look hooded, and when they look hooded, it's a very frightening thing, because it seems that when the eyes are hooded, they're about to do something.
What do you mean by hooded?
The lids come down, and it's almost, I guess it would be the same thing in a human as an expression of someone's got an idea.
And how tall are they when they shapeshift?
They're just about 7 feet tall. Some are a little shorter, or to a foot shorter. Some are a little bit taller than 7 feet.
So what would the Queen and Prince Charles look like in their reptilian form?
As to height?
As to general appearance?
Charles resembles in both ways, in human form and in reptilian. He resembles Pindar. He's shorter, though, in reptilian form than Pindar, but the way that the reptilian, the nose shapes into the snout at that point, and the jaw becomes the underpart. It's very much like Pindar, and his mother doesn't look quite the same as he does.
But what does the Queen look like?
The Queen, she's darker, not quite so pale. She's darker all over. She doesn't have the amount of I would call it freckling. It's more like a gradual, like the skin is gradually getting darker. It's more smooth. And she does have the lumps up around her head and down the tail, the spine. Charles has the tails down around the spine, and funny enough, he has the protrusions from the skull in the reptilian form, where about or above, right above where it seems like his ears would have been.
What is it about the rituals that allow the shapeshifting to happen?
When the victims are starting to be sacrificed, it's the scent of the blood, and they start shape-shifting at that point in time, and they can hardly wait to get to the blood. It's like they're addicted to the blood, and then the consumption of human flesh that follows.
What have you seen the Queen or any of the royal family do in relation to that? Have you seen them sacrifice and consume human flesh?
There are certain times when they will actually do a sacrifice, or there will have been someone doing a sacrifice, and it's not happening fast enough for them. So they will step in and finish it themselves, because the ritual has to be gone through. It's sacrificially, ritualistically, it has to have been gone through, and they will step right in and just start tearing the throat out, and they're getting all this blood from the jugular vein at the same time, and that has happened when there are many there that are going to be sacrificed, and they just can't wait, and tearing into the contents of the abdomen and stomach of a victim afterwards.
Who have you seen do that?
I've seen the Queen Mother do that, and Prince Philip and Charles. I've seen Guy de Rothschild do this. It seems that I've seen it more among royalty, or so-called royalty, do this than people that are not titled. That they don't seem to. They seem like it feels like they don't dare, but they shapeshift nonetheless. But it's like the royals that step in and just start tearing away, as they can hardly wait.
How long can they hold the reptilian form in these occasions?
During the rituals, it's much easier for them to hold their reptilian form. They can stay in that form. What it is that they have a hard time holding their human form. And as long as they're around blood and the scent of blood, they can't hold human form.
Right. Where do you think the story of Diana fits into all this, in terms of the ritual that you know about and the royal family background that you know about? What was all that about? What happened in Paris?
Diana was a ritual sacrifice because she's named after a goddess, Diana. She was chosen from before birth for the purpose of which she served. I understand and very well, and am very empathetic towards Diana, because in a way it parallels what happened to me, to have served your purpose, had 2 children, and then be tossed aside. And to her horror, though, she obviously never attending a ritual, she knew something was happening, and she knew what was going on, and could not be trusted to be at a ritual anyways. I don't think that Diana would have attended a ritual. I don't think that they could get her to cooperate in this, because she actually saw for herself that this was going on after she married Charles.
Was there any way, when Diana was married to Charles, without attending a blood ritual, that she could have seen him or one of the others become a reptile?
They have a tendency when they're asleep to shapeshift, and they have to consciously hold their form, and when they're asleep, they have a tendency to not hold human form and to shapeshift into reptilians, and there could be other things that happen. You know, I'm thinking about the times that Diana would have gone through a menstrual period. Well, that would have also really triggered some of these people in the royal family that are reptilian around her to want to shapeshift, or any woman, any human woman in that household that would be having a period, that scent of blood would tend to cause a momentary shapeshift.
What was the whole, what appears to be a ceremony surrounding her assassination? What was that about? The rumours that she was pregnant, the Egyptian Dodi Fayed, and the place where it all happened, which is an ancient sacrificial site to the goddess Diana. How does all that fit together in the rituals that you know about?
Okay, the crown aspect of the goddess is Hecate, and the day of Hecate is on August 13th. And what is very prevalent in this with the Illuminati and what they've done with the Druidism and other and Egypt, the Egyptian religions, is they like to mirror the numbers. And so as like, for example, with the goddess Isis, her number is 18. When you mirror it, it's 81, and that is the number of the sister of Isis, Nephthys. And Nephthys was considered the evil sister to Isis. With Hecate, what I think happened here is that she was sacrificed, and it was a very important sacrifice because 3 people died, and it was a picture of the triad of Isis, Osiris, and Horus to them. Horus being the unborn child of Dodi Fayed that Diana carried and was 3 months old, which is another very important fact, a number that's important to them, to be 3 months old. Sacrificial babies are taken in utero at 3, 5, and 7 months. And when I heard about this was a deal that I understood now had gone down. And she had to die in that tunnel because that tunnel's the passageway for Diana, the goddess. And she died at the 13th pillar again because of Hecate. And she died on the 31st because it's the mirror image of 13. And my understanding of what I get inside of me, and because I was told by Baron Guy de Rothschild last beginning of February, when he was in this country and he was there to try and reprogram me again and impregnate me, was that he was in the tunnel that night. He had to be there because not only was it a ritual death of Diana, this was also about taking her soul, and he was taking the soul of Diana, which no one else there could do. Whoever was present there could not do it. He could do it, and he was in France.
This is the hypnotic stare you talk about.
Yes, and drawing in the breath. And he had to be there to do this ritual killing, this ritual murder.
this would mean that the ambulance team and a doctor that arrived within a minute of the crash coming the other way must have been in on this whole deal, or at least the people in charge of the ambulance team. From your experience of the kind of people involved in this Illuminati satanic network, do you think that's possible, that they could set that up?
Yes, I do. I've seen a lot of things set up that if you did not know, if you weren't in on the so-called inner circle, or know what the Illuminati can do, because they depend on people not believing they're really there, you would not, you would have a hard time believing it.
I personally, I brought David Icke to America. He was in America because I brought him here personally.
Yes.
And so I'm saying that I am totally convinced, beyond a shadow of a doubt, for myself, that there are such things as reptile aliens. Though I have never seen one, thank God, but I totally believe they're here. Not because of David Icke, not because of Crito Mutwa, who I love listening to, wonderful, fascinating man. David Icke has done great stuff. But I believe there are reptile aliens here because of my own personal research.
Of that religion, and the father was the priest there, what would you think?
Taken part in these rituals that you've conducted. You say you've conducted them in Europe and the United States. Can we start with the United States?
Yes, I have seen at rituals, I have seen George Bush, I have seen Madeleine Albright, I have seen Henry Kissinger, I have seen Ronald Reagan, and I have also, by the way, seen his wife, Nancy Reagan. I have seen Hillary Clinton before I knew she was Hillary Clinton at the time at these rituals. She is involved. The other people that I have named and are, as I have seen shapeshift into reptilians. I have not seen Hillary Clinton actually shapeshift, but she is involved. I have seen the two sons when they were young, the two sons of George Bush present at these rituals.
Are these the sons that have become governors?
Yes, one is in Florida and one is in Texas. I have seen, did I mention J. Rockefeller? And he shapeshifts. I've seen George Deukmejian and Ronald Reagan again, having been governor in California. There have been people such as Newt Gingrich. I saw, and I didn't know at the time that he was Newt Gingrich. I recognized that he was Newt Gingrich when Clinton came into power, and after he was, Newt Gingrich was then elected Speaker of the House, and I was horrified to realize that this man was also there. all of this has affected me to the point I don't vote. All of these people seem to all be connected to the Illuminati, and I don't feel like being part of having anything to do with them.
Presidents like Carter and Ford and Clinton.
I've seen Ford there.
Gerald Ford.
Gerald Ford, yes.
Are they all reptilian bloodlines?
I haven't seen Carter shapeshift.
You've seen him at rituals, have you?
Yes. Gerald Ford, I have seen shapeshift. And Johnson, also.
Lyndon Johnson.
Lyndon Johnson. Also, Dr. Joseph Mengele, who took me around to these rituals a lot of the time, was also a shapeshifter. And there were also people that there are people in the European countries that I've seen shapeshift and be involved. And this it doesn't surprise me any more than it does the people in this country doing it. Is just for some reason more shocking, and it cuts even deeper, because I have seen the Queen Mother there, and I have seen the Queen there. I've seen Princess Margaret there. I've seen Charles there, and they shapeshift. And I have seen this. I'm not coming up with his name right now, but he was president in France after de Gaulle. He was there. I've seen him there. I've seen the Rothschilds there. I used to see the Rothschild that lived in England there, but the one that still goes there and is a shapeshifter, Guy de Rothschild, Baron Guy de Rothschild, has been to all of these rituals and has been over in this country under the name of Dr. Barrington and tried to program me, and has impregnated me several times with eggs that were taken from me years ago and were impregnated with semen from Pindar and then placed back into my uterus. This has happened to me twice, once at age 39 and this year right before I turned 43. And I had told my therapist ahead of time, before I ever could have known that this had been done to me. And it's happened at a certain place in where I have been living in the San Fernando Valley. It's happened at a house on Tyrone Street in Sherman Oaks. And my understanding is that there have been other survivors that have talked about this location as having been involved with programming and so on. And Baron Guy de Rothschild has tried to program me. All these years he has been trying to control me, get me back under control. And the Marquis de Libero is someone else that attends all of these functions and is, since he is the one in power, he attends all these functions. I have seen Tony Blair there. and he shapeshifts. I have seen Prince Philip there. They all have their quirks as to how they act, even in their reptilian form. And they all, I mean, they act. They don't act all like robots, but they have their quirks. They have their so-called personalities, but they are all cold-blooded. They would kill at the drop of a hat. I have even, since I've seen a picture of some people that are talking about this subject, I've seen them, when I've seen their pictures, I recognize them. I did a double take a few weeks ago when I saw again someone who's been talking about around this subject, and it seems to be popular right now.
Who's that?
This man by the last name of Sitchin. I've seen at rituals, and he is a shapeshifter. And I did a double take when I saw the picture of him, because I recognize him. And there's another person that I've seen, this Gardner, Sir Gardner.
That Laurence Gardner?
Sir Laurence Gardner. And he had recently written an article that was out in Nexus magazine. Part of it was about the menstrual blood, and what really triggered me was when he called it Starfire, because that is the name of one of the aspects of the three women who are the dressed mother goddess. That is my name in all of this. So this man, I have seen, he has lots of power within this sect of reptilians, and he's someone that you would want to watch out for outside of this too, as is this Sitchin person.
What do you remember about Zecharia Sitchin?
Zecharia Sitchin was someone in the rituals attending the rituals who was not a major player in as far as the rituals went, but was someone that others present did not make remarks at, or were very careful as to what they said around him. And he was talking about, he would be talking about doing away with people, persons that were in his way, or were putting out information that he didn't feel that he wanted put out.
here. I just wanted to share this, and issue 1, and there's a bunch of these manuals for these reps. 100 and something here. Let me look completely here. We've got 198 manuals. Okay, 1 to 198. Here's just some of the titles. Paranoia, the 198th manual. Paranoia, the starting point. Reptilians, part 199. Do unto others, but not unto me. Reptilians, part 198. Blaming choice for who I am. Tired eyes. The tapestry of your life. Reptilians. Drooping eyelids and resonant possession. Okay, projection possessions, resonant energy possessions. Exploring the negativity of ourselves, part 2. Exploring the negativity of ourselves, part 1. How do I stop feeling this way? Why do I keep feeling this way? How to live words, part 1. How to live words, part 2. From mind words to living words. The nature of words. The human mind as a computer. You think you're living? Question mark. Living in the world of our own, part 1 and 2. Assessing your full potential, part 1 and 2. Waiting for change to come to me, Reptilian support, part 176. What does it mean to stand up, Reptilian support? Fair play principles in our daily relationships, sibling rivalry, and fairness. I'm starting to crack up here in a minute. Acing job interviews, Reptilians and memories, part 1, 2, 3, and 4, actually, that. Self-interest and self-honesty, how does that work? Decision-making, and here's like Anu on honesty versus self-honesty, deliberately sabotaging my own change. Put a guard in front of your mind. It's a time to change. Anu, self-honesty. And this is in the hundreds now. Let's go back to the beginning here. You got 37. Am I real? Facing the question of who I am. Why do relationships exist? Where does relationships come from? The future of consequence. Giving up knowledge for life. The split between two worlds. My fear of loneliness or aloneness. Here's the Reptilians, a visitor. Be still and know I am God. Breathe the answer to life. Relationships as illusion of control. The human picture. Engineering God. Either life or death. Where is life? These are the different titles that I'm reading on. Anew confirms the Jesus message. The obvious secret, reality or illusion. Test your enlightenment, reverse your self-awareness. That's part 16. The death and rebirth of self, part 12. The promise of eternal life, part 13. Part 6, how I veiled the Atlanteans. Sex and relationships in existence. The young, inquisitive Anu. Am I God? The road ahead. The quantum time illusion. Okay, you get it. Now, and published April 28th, 2013, this 187 series. Now, I don't know if they released all these series like it at one time. Who wrote all these series? You can do your own investigations if you're super interested. You see the symbolism involved here in their little graphic, their terrible little graphic here. I say terrible.
And in the Holy City of Mecca, Paris Hilton has 3 handbag shops in Mecca. In Mecca, where the Jamarat has already been destroyed and the Hajj has been made invalid after 2004. So we can see her small eyes and very physically big mouth, which are very typical pharaonic features. So Mrs. Pharaoh in Mecca, where she's being protected by the all-seeing eye of the Saudi police and the Saudi pharaohs. It's all pharaonic, guys. And they don't want the Muslim to stone the obelisk, so that's why they blew it up in 2004. I can tell you one thing, your religion is gone. It's finished. And the pharaohs, as Mrs. Hilton here, are definitely heading for a one-world religion altogether. As Mr. Hitler already said, one people, one Führer, one religion, etc. One people. The Freemasons called the Msha, or Lizard King, Adonai, which is a Hebrew word meaning Sir or Mister, and where the word Don, as in Don Quixote, derives from. So here we can see the Templar symbol here. Look, there it is, as we can see on all the tanks. It's the of the NATO, you know, in Iraq, and the Israeli army has it as well, upside down, next to Horus. So this is the symbol of the statue of Horus. Yeah, well, and the Masons, they came out of the Templars and founded Switzerland, their base. So within this ancient serpent religion, the pharaohs await the coming of their god and creator, the Messiah, or Messiah, as they force their serpent religion upon humanity through torture, by force, and by the violent priests of Amun.
The Pacific Northwest is full of mysteries, from Bigfoot to ghost stories and, of course, the disappearance of D.B. Cooper.
Another mystery buried deep in the hills of eastern Washington keeps resurfacing. A bottomless pit said to be a pathway to the paranormal. KOMO4's Denise Whitaker heads east in search of the hole.
Ellensburg and its surrounding valleys and Menashtash Ridge are beautiful in any season. But some believe what lies beneath is a deep, dark hole with supernatural powers. One of the only people alive ever known to have seen this mysterious hole took me as far as he could, or would.
Honey, don't go up that damn driveway.
I want to see if there's tracks up here. I'm just curious.
You're out of your tree going up there.
Red Elk, a Native American shaman or medicine man, tells me his dad first showed him the hole in 1961.
He said, this is an endless hole.
He says he's been back many times and that strange things happen every time he goes near it.
And people get it confused with what I call the devil's hole.
Many locals claim to know about the hole, but it didn't really become a phenomenon until 1997, when Mel Waters went on the Coast to Coast radio show with Art Bell.
As usual, I brought the dogs with me. They wouldn't go anywhere near the damn thing.
Waters said the hole had a 3-foot stone wall around it. It seemed bottomless to him, so he used an old shark fisherman's trick, sending thousands of feet of fishing line down.
What I did is I sent down a roll of lifesavers.
Lifesavers?
Yeah, so when it hits the water, the lifesavers will dissolve.
But the lifesavers came back up whole, no water. So how deep was this hole? Waters said he believed it descended miles into the earth, and he says he's heard strange stories about its powers.
The one guy claims that he threw his departed canine down into the hole. He swears the dog actually came back to him.
When Mel went public, that's when the trouble began.
But why?
Now I'm going public on this.
Red Elk claims the government has a secret base there.
It's an underground base, a very small underground base.
That's how Red Elk explains white boxes covering the area on some satellite images. Is the government covering something up? Red Elk says he's also witnessed alien activity at the hole.
A huge spacecraft, one will appear and hover over the hole.
That, he says, happens during summer solstice.
They unload and then they load, and then they take off. God help the things that they load.
Alien spacecraft? Dogs that come back to life? I went to the Northwest Museum of Legends and Lore seeking some answers.
Well, I believe there is a hole.
But Philip Lipson's never seen the hole, even though he's led expeditions to find it.
Well, I think it's actually a true event, just something that's never really been totally uncovered.
And to this day, no one's been able to find it since that famous radio conversation.
It was mildly sensational, and then it just mushroomed, completely out of control.
Allensburg Public Library historian Milton Waggy says the phone rang off the hook with all kinds of stories about the hole, some explainable, some not. He's still trying to solve the mystery of what happened to the library's file on Mel's hole.
Well, it just disappeared, which lends itself to the mysteriousness of Mel's hole. You know, did Mel take it? Did it just sort of rise out of the locked file cabinet? You never know. You know, there might be a hole out there.
Question is, can any of us find it? Denise Whitaker
is the smartest creature on the planet. 2 guys in Sweden met one of them, a female named Shrask, something like that. I'm not pronouncing that correctly, so she just wants us to call her Lacerda, the family name of her reptile species. I thought she just picked the name out of the air, then I discovered that her name is a class of lizards, and there's also a family called Lacertidae. Here are some others in that family. This is Lacerda agilus. And this is Lacerda viridis. And here's Lacerda, the intelligent lizard. She does not allow herself to be photographed, so these young men had to sketch her image with pencil and paper. These 2 Swedish men recorded their conversation with her, asking many questions, and they took the time to write it down for us so that we could also benefit from their serendipity. I don't know what happened to the 2 Swedish guys. She might have eaten them. She is carnivorous, but likes her meat cooked, and she enjoys apples and oranges too. I'd love to see her tongue. Thanks for watching.
I found this British coin when I was in Calais some couple of weeks ago. And look here, it's 1 penny. Here we can see a reptilian feet here. Now why do they put some reptilian feet on it? And this here is a crocodile with some pharaonic feather on it, on his nose. Now why would they do this? And well, if I look at the other side, well, here's the old crocodile.
The world. And I have in front of me
the CIA has a department for the spread of disinformation. It is at least as big as the department for the collection of UFO data. The CIA makes it difficult to distinguish between genuine and false information about cooperation between itself and UFOs and about its secret bases. UFO investigators are, however, stationed in the areas where there is much UFO activity.
Iran, in the middle of the Iranian desert. Tibet, high in the mountains of the Himalayas. Narvik, in Scandinavia, near a military base. Africa, there are 2 in Egypt. 1 in Algeria, near Tahat. 1 in the Sudan. Okay, there are 2 in Australia. 1 south of Alice Springs called Pine Gap, and another in the Great Victoria Desert. These are both built by the CIA of the United States. And the government there and the aliens are both operating both these bases. Okay, now I'd like to go to South America, to the country of Brazil. Also, along the Andes Mountains in Chile, Peru, Bolivia, Argentina. There are many bases as well in the Pacific and Atlantic Ocean. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to show you where they are in North America and the United States. State of Montana, Red Mountain. In Nevada, Black Rock Desert. And the other in the Kawich Mountain Range, which is known as Area 51.
Okay, we just found this out here in the middle of the lake.
What the fuck is it?
So foggy.
Alright, I'll touch it.
Okay, touch it.
Oh, did you see it?
Slimy?
Yeah!
You need a stick or something.
So, what the fuck is it? Touch it.
Gross. Gross.
Oh, weird.
What if it's like a disease?
What if it's some of those clams you were talking about trying to find some shells?
Might be. You don't just see shit like this, man. Let's get a close-up on it.
It melted the ice.
I know, dude. That's what's weird about it.
Red Elk, this was a little before my time here, but did you ever go hunting for that Mel's Hole? Remember that story?
Oh, yes. That's the one that got me with Mr. Bell in first place.
Yeah, all right. What happened about that?
Well, it's there. I've been called all kinds of liar and stuff like that. It's covered by an outbuilding, and anybody crazy enough to go on that piece of land, they're out of their tree. You know, it's got plants that are plastic, that they're sound sensors. It's well protected. This little outbuilding is maybe 16 by 16, you know, all the way around, maybe. And oddly enough, I thought the roof lifted. But no, it opens like a book. And at certain times, they open this up, and big ships come down and unload and load. And, yeah, it's there. And I don't care. I don't care what you believe. I don't care if you think I'm nuts. I'm not here to lie to people. And I moved some 8.5 miles away from where I had been during that time. Mm-hmm. And it appears that the UFO activity that was sporadic, but quite a bit of it has just about died down in Kittitas County. And that hole has a lot to do with it. And that hole is not a bottomless pit. It's 27 to 27.5 miles deep. It's a blowhole from Mount Rainier. And I'll say this: there's another hole similar to it in depth and stuff. And the Indians, the Yakimas, they keep that secret. And with good reason, otherwise the damn government will have that too. But nevertheless, yes, it's there, and I ran into all kinds of trouble with it. I've been followed by a helicopter, one of those black ones. I've had I was watching because it was about the right time for one of the giant UFOs to come in and hover over it, and late at night, and next thing I know, here's the police, and you know, I'm not breaking any law. I'm off of the road quite a ways, and I'm not on private land, and in the middle of the night, and I had my camera and stuff, and I just sitting there with the light on, writing a letter and watching that spot, and then another cop comes, and lo and behold, it's a policeman that I've known since I was a younger man, and he leaned down and he said, "Red Elk, we know about Mel's Hole. Be careful." And then he stood up, and he said that in a whisper. And he stood up and said to the other two sheriffs, he says, "He's all right. I know Red Elk. He's not doing anything wrong." "Oh, okay." So off they went.
And left you alone. So what is it about that hole that UFOs would show up over?
Well, it's connected to other below-ground tunnels now. And the Reptilian race, the little lizards that everybody thinks I'm crazy, use that and to load and unload things onto the ship that comes down. A giant ball is one of them. The other one looks like about the size of an aircraft carrier. And they use it to bring stuff down into their lower cavern living areas, and unfortunately what they unload or take out of the hole are sacred to them, sacred bones. They murder people and do certain things with it and grind it and put it in white gold, and it's for longevity. And guys, I took another medicine man with me over there, and it just scared the daylights out of him. They had murdered a red-headed woman from Issaquah, I think.
And these are actual looking lizard people.
Yeah, they're people.
But they're violent, I guess?
Oh, yeah, they think they're God. If there's a God, they don't believe in it. And if there's a God, they're it. If there's a devil, they're it. They can do anything they want. And I've had my run-ins with them. And but they're very, very real. I told before getting a letter, it's sitting there at my desk at home. I ran across it just last week and pulled it out. A lady in New York or New Jersey, as a kid, she and her little brother and a bunch of friends snuck into an abandoned building and were playing down in the basement amongst the pipes, and they heard a noise and stuff, and turned around, and there was a lizard child. Oh. And they all took off. She literally said, "Red Elk, I'm ashamed to admit it. I pulled my brother out of going out the window and went over the top of him, and I peed my pants."
Oh, God. Red Elk, do they look human at all? I mean, do they have no human features at all?
Well, eyes,
legs. They walk on
tail and dragon, and they've got their skin is basically scaly. They look like an upright walking lizard, and
are they green or what?
Well, they've got a mottled green, khaki and color combination. And some are, none of them are really tall. Maybe 6'2" at the very tallest, but generally our size, 5'7", 5'9".
Do they look like, snake heads or what?
Well, they got a lizard face.
They do have a lizard face.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. And, but they're people. I look at, as I call you brother and sister, I call them brother and sister.
Even as violent as they might be?
Well, certainly they are very violent. But I'm not afraid of them, so that makes them afraid of me.
You wouldn't introduce them to your friends, though, I take it, would you?
I have.
swallowed whole by the enormous snake, who then went and had a bit of a lie down. Apparently that's going to keep him from being hungry for about a month, from what I was reading today. That's quite a dinner.